In the latest news, right after Donald Trump resumed office or has become the president-elect in the United States, what we heard from the United States with regards to Horn of Africa is that US has canceled $1.1 billion debt of Somalia. Now, they say this is for a win of Mogadishu, the capital city of Somalia, in its striving for peace and for different kinds of development projects, this and that. Now, one thing as an African that we have to that we have experienced and cannot get it wrong is that there is no free lunch that comes just like that debt cancellation for an African country or anywhere in the world. And the second thing is that we have to be, as an African, be cautious of whenever this kind of headlines are thrown to our face, debt cancellation, this and that, when we were labeled as debtors in Africa, is that we should ask from who that money comes from, why in the first place that debt was incurred, from who it comes from, where it is going, after it's coming. And these kinds of things we should be vigilant and ask or hold accountable our own governments. Now, as far as my reading is concerned, I try to unpack by consistently, trying to answer these three questions. Now, this is the headline that we see from this the EastAfrican.com, and in which mainstream media is now picking it and all over having it, that the US has canceled $1.1 billion for of Somalia's debt. Now, here it is. I'm going to share with you and going to reflect my take on it, and I will tell you why. Okay. US cancels $1.1 billion of Somalia debt in latest win for Mogadishu. This is exactly, of course, this by itself, coming with this headline, is a win for the US. Of course, US is always, there is that image that the Americans wants to constantly build and maintain it, that the US is the savior of this world, that every time it's giving away humanitarian aid or canceling debts, bringing food. So first of all, it's going to feed that content, that aspect of the United States, that it's savior of the world. Okay, that is one. Now let's go into its content. The US has written off more than 1.1 billion of Somalia's debt, signaling Mogadishu's continued win in the international arena. Okay, what is international Somalia's win in the international arena? Somalia is going to, in 2025, Somalia will be one of the three African countries who will take place from the others as a non-permanent seat of the United Nations Security Council. Well, relatively, Somalia's the terrorist attacks here and then might have also been lesser if we compare it what it has been years ago. It doesn't mean that it's fully peaceful, but we can say that, the diaspora is back, and there are some things going on as a development project. But the main one is that the US, Somalia has signed recently. There are a lot of things that it's doing from where it's located in the Horn of Africa, which are good and bad. Okay. But that's another topic for another day. One of the things now it has done is that it has signed this oil deal and military deal, or a defense pact, with Turkey. Okay, so Turkey is like winning two things in Somalia, and also Somalia is chasing away the African Union peacekeeping mission and replacing it what it calls a multinational, and mainly by bringing Egypt. Yes, Egypt is part of part of Africa geographically, but the problem is that Egypt now it's a potential enemy, or it's an enemy to Ethiopia because of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, and because it does not want to see a superpower economically in Africa other than itself. So Ethiopia shares a long border with Somalia, and for Somalia, bringing Egypt there is something that's not unacceptable. But as I said, this is another discussion for another day, and we have also assessed it here. More than 2 times or 3 times. You may check the videos that we have done. Now let's continue. Now, why this debt cancellation, or from where it comes from? Okay, now at a brief ceremony at the U.S., the articles, I'm reading the article, at a brief ceremony at the U.S. Embassy grounds in Mogadishu, Washington's officials said Somalia would no longer be burdened by the money it owed, allowing Mogadishu to redirect its spending to urgent matters. Yeah, exactly. They tell you now this loan, this debt cancellation now can go to health, education, this and that of Somalia's future. The thing what we need to ask, when they tell you this, what you have to ask is, what are they hiding? Under what? What is the agreement behind the scene for Somalia's government and the United States? Quote, here is who said the finance, this is what the finance minister of Somalia said. This debt forgiveness is a testament to our unwavering commitment to support the Somali people on their journey toward a brighter future. Okay. Now, this is what actually the ambassador of the US to Somalia said after signing this deal. And the finance minister of Somalia said that also the agreement, this agreement will, bring a great deal for Somalia. That it will transform the country, this and that. Now, Somalia attained its first major economic milestone by receiving 4.5 billion in debt relief. If you count, from the 2022, 2023, now 2024, Somalia so far has got around $3.7 billion debt cancellation. So that is, of course, huge, but it comes under what cost? That's something we need to ask. Debt relief came after years of negotiation with IMF and different creditors, this and that. Now, I want to bring you your attention now to answer to the why Somalia has signed now this deal with Turkey. It's a two kinds of deal. One is the military deal, the security deal, in which Turkey is bringing its military, running the whole maritime of Somalia and providing weapons to Somalia. And the other one is the oil deal. In fact, President Erdogan said also its military now will accompany or protect its oil investment, oil and gas investment in Somalia. Okay, this is what President Erdogan says. Now, for America to come now and tell us this right after, where Somalia has signed the deal, the oil and gas deal with Turkey, and for the US right after that, and right just 1 or 2 days after the Republican win. I don't know what kind of point I'm going to pull a trade from that, but it just, there's something going on. But I tell you what I know. In 2022, there was a deal, an oil and gas deal, that signed an agreement with the US company. It's called a cost exploration cost. I'm going to share the article with you. And it was in 2022. It was signed by the Minister of Petroleum in Somalia with the company directly, okay, without really involving the federal government of Somalia, without the knowledge of, at that time, the prime minister or whatsoever. But hours after that deal was cancelled. Okay, that deal was cancelled, and the government said in the next 2-3 months there was going to be an election in which it brought to power now the current president Hassan Sheikh. But before that, it was the president that was known as in his nickname, President Formaggio. Okay, so it was during President Formaggio. So in 3 months, we are going to have an election. So this deal will not be counted, and we will do our own research. And the federal government is not was not consulted, so this deal is cancelled. And they went to even to take legal action, but eventually that thing was, thrown out of the window. Okay, here is I'm going to share that article with you because there is a lot to learn from that. Now this company was just out of the business. Here is, look, the agreement detailed at that time. And the first part here is what they say. Yes, we signed the agreement with the Minister of Petroleum in Somalia, but we were told that it's called, Coastline Exploration Limited. This is the American company that signed the oil and gas deal in Somalia. And they said, we don't know anything. We signed with the Minister of Petroleum, and they told us the government is aware of it. So, basically, it's not our fault. That's what they said. And the government said, no, we don't know about it. So it's cancelled. Okay. The agreement detail is that now the Coastline Exploration Limited, he said, this man Anderson, it's a fair deal for Somalia. Here is what said, quote, there is a 5% royalty that comes right off the top. Profit split is 50-50. There is a 30% income tax on whatever profits the contractor, that is meaning the Coastline Explorer. And then, so there are various other financial benefits for Somalia in the agreement. Okay. Now, according to him, also all the terms of the terms and conditions, including the profit sharing percentage, are fixed for its 30 years lease. Okay, 30-year term, and will not change during the life of the contract. Now, Somali oil experts criticized the agreement at that time by the name Jamal Kasim Mursal. He said he was a former permanent secretary of the Somali Petroleum Ministry, and he said the agreement was unfair. Why? Quote, here is what he said: a fixed oil royalty rate of 5% and fixed gas royalty rate of 3%. Government share becomes then 59.8%. He said that. Now he continues. However, if prices fall to 70% dollar per a barrel, government share stands at 50%. Now, any price below $70, government loses money to the contractor. $60 a barrel, for example, government share becomes 42%. So according to this oil expert, Mursal, he said, the other key also term with regards to is that, such as the discount rate, the cost recovery ceiling, the exploration period, and the capital gain determines the overall government take. So considering all the above, he said the agreement that was done between Coastline Explorer and the Somalia Petroleum, the Minister of Somalia's Petroleum, was unfair. That's what he said. Okay, now the fact that all was done in secret itself makes it unfair. Current government term has ended, and the two statements from the office of the prime minister and president stated no government official signs a contract up until new government is installed. So they do not have a mandate to sign such a deal. So it was also linked to a bribery in which this man, the CEO and the owner of this company, Coastline Explorer Anderson, said that we even hired an anti-corruption committee in which they investigated. No money went to any official authority to their pocket or something. So it was not, there was no corruption involved. That's what they said. But the thing is that here is an interesting thing. He said, the agreement between, it was signed in 2018 and it was not in 2022. And he said those officials that signed this agreement from the Ministry of Somalia's Petroleum and the Coastline Explorer, the agreement was done in Turkey. Does that ring a bell? The agreement was signed in a deal in Turkey. And it's Turkey now that has now signed a deal with Somalia for oil and gas. Okay. And he even says, quote, he paid the flight cost for the people. He confirmed that I'm reading you from the article. He confirmed that Coastline paid for the flights to Istanbul and hotels for members of the Somali delegation who flew to Turkey to sign the agreement. From all the places, now it's Turkey. And it's Turkey that who signed this oil and gas agreement together with military with Somalia. Now, of course, you may ask, I'm just doing my little investigative journalism. I like to bring something that is research based. I wouldn't say that Turkey will just give away such opportunity for an American company, but there's definitely something smells here. Which we will find really soon. Now, do not be surprised. Now, after this debt cancellation is announced by the United States, that you hear perhaps the Coastline Exploration or Explorer Limited comes into a picture and says they are reviving that oil and gas deal with Somalia. Now, then again, you can ask what maybe there will be a conflict of interest between Turkey and the United States. And why would Somalia invite such a conflict in its territory? Well, guess what? Somalia's reputation tells us so. I mean, look at what it has done with Egypt by bringing Egypt's military to replace the African Union peacekeeping mission in which Ethiopia was a part and kicking the Ethiopian diplomats away. It's bringing Egypt is longing for this, to get a country near to Ethiopia that shares border with Ethiopia and have its military there so that it can hit the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, if anything. Okay, this is their dream come true. But why would Somalia now bring such a conflict in its territory that it's not part of it? It's not its conflict. Why would it do this government that makes the Somali people suffer? It's a problem of Ethiopia and Egypt. And yet again, you see it that inviting such a conflict interest between the United States and Turkey by signing this oil and gas. The US has been capable of it. It will go far to do anything to secure its oil. Guess what happened in 1991? That war that led Somalia to be a failed state in the world, where citizens of the world become familiar with the phrase a failed state because of Somalia. For more than 2 decades or close to 3 decades, Somalia has been a failed state. Its people scattered all over the world, became stateless because of that war. Why? You know what happened just before Somalia was torn apart into war? Do you know what happened? There were 5 of oil companies owned by the United States that came and signed an agreement with President Ziad Barre to that, that allocated actually two-thirds of the whole of Somalia to explore and dig and find oil and then benefit it. But the Somali people were angry, and that's why the war was the war started. The oil was the hidden agenda behind that war. 5 oil companies of Americas. I will read you here. Here is the article. If you, I'm gonna share it with you. Just a second, okay? This is based on our reading, and you all might be, familiar with this. This is oil is what led America to have bringing, its military as a humanitarian aid in 1991. They stayed more than 1 year. They even dragged the world, the UN with them. And guess what? They were embarrassed because the Somalis militants has been dragging the dead body of the Americans, 4 of them, that brought shame to the United States, and they left. As Somalia was, and then the fighting between the clans started, and eventually Somalia became stateless, that nobody controls it. Just like that. And they didn't, after that shame, the UN, the United Nations, did not even want to allocate a peacekeeping mission fund. Even when the African Union wanted to bring a peacekeeping mission, the US did not want to finance that. Go and watch the movie of the Black Hawk Down. It was it was made by Hollywood, but it tells you exactly the story behind it. So let me share this article with you just a second, and I'm gonna read some things from there. Okay, now here is the thing. It says, look, the oil, this was in 1993, okay? Now, the oil factor in Somalia, 4 American petroleum giants, okay, I said 5, it's 4. 4 American petroleum giants had agreements with the African nation before its civil war began. They could reap big rewards if peace is restored. Look, far beneath the surface of the tragic drama of Somalia, 4 major US oil companies are quietly sitting on a prospective fortune in exclusive concessions to explore and exploit tens of millions of acres of the Somali countryside. That land, in the opinion of geologists and industry sources, could yield significant amounts of oil and natural gas if the US-led military mission can restore peace to the impoverished East African nation. Now, according to documents obtained by the Times, nearly 2/3 of Somalia, do you know what that means? 2/3 of a country, a sovereign country, was allocated to the American oil giants, namely Conoco, Amoco, Chevron, and Phillips, in the final years before Somali's pro-US President Mohamed Ziad Barre was overthrown and the nation plunged into chaos in January 1991. Now, industry sources say the companies holding the rights to the most promising concessions are hoping that the Bush administration at that time decision to send US troops to safeguard aid shipments to Somalia will also help protect their multi-million-dollar investments there. But guess what? I mean, at least there have been an example for Turkey, and Turkey, without any shame, has come in a day in light saying that we are sending military that's going to safeguard our oil investment in Somalia. You bring all this foreign military in a sovereign country for what? I really do not understand what Somalia is doing for itself, but above all, what it is doing to the Somali people who just got a breath of air after more than 2 decades of war. And still the terrorist attacks is here, going here and there, including the capital city. You know, it's like a person, there is a saying that a wet person is not afraid of the rain. Anyway, we are dying, so there's nothing to lose. I think that's what President Sheikh Hassan is having a slogan, you know, to lead. That's how I think he's leading the nation. As much as possible, you try, if you can, you become a mediator, and to restore peace between two countries, you invite a conflict that's not yours in your country. Why? So now I gave you a picture. First of all, look, these are also facts, what you have to know. How the United States operate is it wants to make itself that it's always the savior of the world, while it is not. There is a number of problems in the United States, okay? While its people have been dying. I mean, do you know that the United States is the most hit by the COVID, when COVID was around, than any other country in the world? But of course, you don't get this or you don't see this in headlines. So there's no free lunch. And even when it provides a humanitarian or aid or whatever, debt cancellation, there is something that it is gaining that is not made to the public. They will even tell that African country or any other that, look, this is the headline that will come, and you're not going to say what we agreed here behind the scene. Okay? Because its image has to, has to stay like that. It's the savior of the world. And second of all, there's no free lunch. So, and even if there's, let alone debt cancellation, but even if when it is, for example, giving a fund, or we are donating 1.1 billion, if it was also just a fund giving to the government, guess what? The United States, 95% of the fund will not leave the United States. Even the 5% that might come to the country will be for their own expert salary, this and that, not really going to the people. So I want you to take away this at the end of this video, okay? First of all, to question why Somalia is doing to its people this. At what expense? Secondly, why the debt was incurred in the first place. Because the government comes and go, but you are automatically now making our children, or the Somalis children, to become a debtor. They are getting that title now, whether you like it or not, a debtor that have to pay that debt in the future. So why it's incurred in the first place? And then where did it go? Did you spend it on our health? Did you spend it on our education? Where did it go? The third question is that yeah, that is from where it come from, and then why it was incurred, and then where did it go. Yeah, those are the three questions that you need to, not only because you are Somali or something, but as an African citizen. When this a number of our heads of states just take debts, nothing will happen to them. You know, when election come, they might go and bring their own elite group and leave, and then they will live in the palace that, or you know, the villas that they bought in the foreign country, and they will make sure the next, if they are not amending the constitution to stay in power, then at least they have made an agreement behind the scene with the next leader or with the next heads of state that they will be immune, that there will not be any trial against them for whatsoever they have done against their own nation. So they are free to fly and no question. So this is really, it's interesting, and it's sad at the same time how this just continue. Soon you will read that against the United States restoring that oil and gas deal with Somalia. Definitely, there's no free lunch. Also, we might hear some kind of, you know, connection maybe between Turkey and the United States, which I doubt. There will be a conflict of interest, and let's see where this is going. Just we will keep an eye on it and bring you what any latest developments that is related to this. Let us know in the comment section, what do you think of this debt cancellation by the United States, the debt cancellation, Somalia's debt cancellation, and in general, Somalia is becoming, how it is doing things with, you know, with other countries. Yeah. I really would love to read your comments, suggestions, or your questions. SGM told Arabs cut off the hands of tips must only apply to us. Hello, Black. Black said the geopolitics in the Horn is always sharper than a sword. Because they have no friends in Africa and they have been kicked out of West Africa and are moving to East Africa. Yeah, Somalia become part of the East African community, which is really a good thing. I fully support that. I came and reported here, and I even asked why Ethiopia is not becoming as an Ethiopian, why Ethiopia will benefit. It becomes, part of the Eastern African community if they use it for a good cause. But now Somalia is doing all this, inviting. It's even against the law that the Eastern African community bringing all this nation, what it calls multinational forces. Into Somalia, and you are part of the Eastern African community. That's against something that Somalia has signed. I don't know why no one is speaking about it. I mean, no member of the Eastern Africa community questioning about it. I wonder. Now, please like and share. Thank you, Black, for reminding the audience. Must-watch video from Salt Cube Analytics titled "Are the Maccabi Tel Aviv hooligans really the victim?" Examining the Amsterdam riots. Well, I don't know. This is written by Nibi. What it has to do with the videos that I made here, I don't know why you brought this topic or this question. Well, yeah, those are the things. Thank you very much again for tuning in. So I will see you on the next one. It's a bye-bye from me for now. Ciao.